concentrate on what you'd have us to learn from this great chapter. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the Stoney Creek Church of Christ, for the families that comprise it. We pray for her elders. We ask you to bless them, bless their wives. We're thankful for our deacons. We ask you to bless them and their families as well. Help us to be the people that you would have us to be. Forgive us of our sins. Thank you so much for Christ Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
We're in verse 29. Chapter 29. We left off around verse 18. And we're discussing a man by the name of Agar. And some of the things he has searched for and some of the things he has learned. And in verse 18, I'm reading from the American Standard. It says, there are three things which are too wonderful for me, yea, four which I know not. The way of an eagle in the air, and the way of a serpent upon a rock. The way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maiden. So is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth, and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness. Well, Agar contemplates things that are too wonderful for me, which I know not. Things that are beyond his ability to know. And four things are the way of an eagle in the air, how it's kind of majestic as it flies around and it soars. And to look at that, he thinks to himself, look how magnificent that is. The next thing is, how does a snake, having no legs, push itself over a rock that is smooth? I really don't care how it does it. I don't want to get around the thing. But, to him, how does that happen? How is that possible? A snake that can crawl over those things. Equally mysterious is a ship tacking through the ocean and making its way to some destination. And then he says, the way of a man with a maiden is beyond his knowledge. For three things the earth does tremble, and for four, which it cannot bear. For a servant when he is king, and a fool when he is filled with food. For an odious woman when she is married, and a handmaid that is heir to her mistress. Well, Agar explains four things that are intolerable and go against nature itself. Four unnatural things are, he says, a servant who becomes king. Well, it's unnatural because servants are not to rule nations. And then he says, a fool who is full of food. Well, a fool is unwilling to work. And then he says, an odious woman who gets married. She's hateful, she's bitter, no qualities to make a man love her. And so he says, to him, that's just an unnatural thing. Mike, go ahead. Where are you? I'm in verse 21.
30, not 29.
Oh, am I in 30? I'm in 30. I'm sorry. I said 29. I'm in 30. 30, 21. Okay. I looked down at my book here. It's on 29, but my page is on 30. 30, 21. Sorry. Yeah, I couldn't find it. Well, I have that effect on people. So, a handmaid who receives the inheritance of her mistress. So let's look at it again since I told you the wrong chapter. We're in chapter 30.
You said you were American Standard. I thought, man, that's really worth it.
Yeah. That's a really totally different American Standard. For three things that the earth does tremble. Verse 21, chapter 30. And for four, which it cannot bear. For a servant when he is king, and a fool when he is filled with food. For an odious woman when she is married, and a handmaid that is heir to her mistress. So four unnatural things he points out. A servant who becomes king, he says that's unnatural because servants don't become kings. A fool who is full of food, because a fool doesn't work for food. They're lazy. An odious woman who gets married. He said that's unnatural because that type of woman is just hateful. She's bitter. She has no qualities to make her husband love her. So how is that possible? Well, maybe the husband is just as hateful and bitter. I don't know. And then a handmaid who receives the inheritance of her mistress. He said those things are just unnatural to me. So in verse 24 through 28 it says, there are four things which are little upon the earth, but are exceeding wise. The ants are a people not strong. Yet they provide their food in the summer. The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make their houses in the rocks. The locusts have no king, Yet go they forth, all of them by bands. The lizard taketh hold with her hands, yet is she in kings' palaces. Well, Agur observes four little bitty things of this earth that are of great in wisdom. Stature does not measure the degree of wisdom. And so the idea is that things are not always what they seem to be. For instance, consider the four giants of wisdom. First, he says, the ant. Here's the ant. And remember, he says before, go to the ant, ye sluggard. Well, why would he tell the lazy man, the sluggard, to go to the ant? What's the one thing that the ant does? It works. Does it stop? It's working continuously, all the time.
It says that the ant is weak, but is able to carry lots of fly.
Exactly. Exactly. We just made some poison. They kill some ants in the house. You know, when those things get into the house, what do? They pretty much just take over. They get everywhere. And so it says the coney, though a weak animal, it strengthens its position by the solid rock it builds its homes in. The locust, the wise little lizard is considered. The lizard may seem insignificant, yet it finds itself in the most royal of palaces. Lizards can find themselves anywhere. And so he says, look at these small little things, but yet they're great in wisdom. And so he says in verse 29 through 31, there are three things which are stately in their march, yea, four which are stately in going. The lion, which is mightiest among beasts, and turns not away for any. The greyhound, the he-goat also, and the king against whom there is no rising up. Well, he considers four stately things in their march. The lion is the mightiest of the beasts. The greyhound, or zebra, or also known as a war horse, known for a stately gait. You ever seen a quarter horse? There's a difference in a quarter horse, saddle horse. A quarter horse has a rough trot, but boy, they sure are pretty. But it has a very smooth run. Here he says the he-goat is also the irresistible king who reigns with justice and wisdom, allowing no uprising of wickedness. Four stately things in their march. So how are now the five sets of four things Agur observes? He says this: four things that not satisfied, four things too wonderful to comprehend, four things intolerable of things that go against the nature or the natural order of things, and then four little things that are great in wisdom. And now four stately things. So he concludes this chapter by saying, if thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thy hand upon thy mouth, for the churning of milk brings forth butter, and the wringing of the nose brings forth blood. So the forcing of wrath brings forth strife. Well, Agur closes with an admonition of people to recognize they have acted out in foolishness by elevating yourself through boasting and even arrogant behavior. And if you have participated in something like this, he says what you need to do is put your hand over your mouth. You know, sometimes when people act out and they're brought to their attention, or they find truth, or they're seeking after wisdom and they find the wisdom, you've been studying, and all of a sudden it's just like a light comes on, and the one thing you do is, oh man, I can't believe that. So if a person is acting foolishly and he gains wisdom, and you see the folly of the way you're acting, and you learn wisdom, is put your hand over your mouth because of what you have done. Recognize the wrong and stop doing it. Know your place before the Almighty God is what he's saying. Know your place before the Almighty God. I learned two things in my life on this earth. One, there is a God, and two, I'm not him. I'm not. We have to know our place in this earth, in this world. And when wrong in behavior has come about, and arrogant behavior and boasting, and it comes to the knowledge that this is the way we are, then he says, put your hand over your mouth and stop acting this way. And so he's come to a conclusion now that, you know what? Maybe the things that I was doing, I've gained knowledge, and now I must stop what I'm doing and behave in the right way. What brought about all this that caused him to maybe change? He saw that there is a God out there. You remember the things that he asked? What man can do these things? What man can produce the oceans and speak things into existence? Man can't do that. There has to be a God. And so as we close this book in chapter 31, King Lemuel receives advice from his mother. You know, we said this before, that Solomon has talked about a woman that, let's see, one time you have to go to the corner of a house, right, to get away from her. Is that right? The corner of a house? Another time in the desert, you know, on the rooftop. That's the one I'm trying to think about. On the rooftop. Wasn't there 4? I think there was 4. 4 times he mentioned. Maybe he mentioned in the 4th all 3 again. But yet now the book closes with what we entitle it a virtuous woman. And so the words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him. The identity of King Lemuel, I think probably is unknown. I don't personally know who he was. Somebody else, I don't know if Lester or Eddie has any light of who this man was. I don't know who he was. But what follows in the next 9 verses is a mother's advice to her son. Now, while much of the book of Proverbs is the advice of a father to a son, the book closes with the advice of a mother to her son. What, my son, and what, O son of my womb, and what, O son of my vows? Well, she contemplates her beloved son, whom she apparently prayed fervently to receive in her youth, and she wants the very best for him. How many mothers want the very best for him? Eddie, go ahead.
Well, this Lemuel is just a person's name meaning devoted to God. And it quotes in a king who received words of wisdom from his mother concerning wine, women, and the legal rights of the people for Proverbs 31.
Yeah, we know it was a king. Yeah, we know it was a king. But what she wants for her son is the very best for him. Every mother in here wants what's best for their son or their child, right? Usually, when a child gets hurt, who's the one they run to the most? Mom. Yeah, she's gonna pamper you and everything. Dad's gonna think, well, you're not hemming me, so throw a little dirt on it and be all right. It's fine. But mom's gonna pamper you the most. But so she wants what's best for her son. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroys kings. You know, there are 3 things that Lemuel's mother instructs him about here. In the 80s, and probably early 90s, people were warned about a lot of things. And we hear things that the people were warned about was sex before marriage, drugs, rock and roll. You know, and now Lemuel's mother warns him about basically the same thing. Wine, women, and worldliness. That's what she warns him about. Those 3 things. You know, think about our world out there. If you had to warn your children about anything, what's the one thing you're going to warn them about? Drugs, worldliness. What else? If you're a boy, women. If you're a girl, boys. That's what you're going to warn them about. And so the mother's doing the same thing. So what strength is Lemuel's mother warning him not to give women? Well, what is it about a woman that serves a potential destroyer to kings? Think about, in biblical history, has there ever been kings that were, or men that were destroyed by or because of women? Samson, that's right. That's the first one on my list. Samson. Was that? Ahab, that's right.
He was pretty hard to start with.
Yeah, that's right. He was, yeah. There was somebody else. I heard someone say something else. Oh.
Kim said Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton. I guess so. He was fitting all three categories.
Eve ate Adam out of house and home. You know, so it started right there.
Started right there. That's right. What about the author of this book? Solomon, right? 700 wives, 300 concubines, or do I have that backwards? 700 wives, 300 concubines. Is that right? It is a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
And David, although he wasn't destroyed, his life
Right?
was in some sort of tatters.
That's right. That is right. Samson was intoxicated by Delilah's love, you know. Solomon with the 700 wives, 300 concubines. So Proverbs records the destructive consequences of giving in to one's temptation. And so the mother warns him here. Lemuel's mother is warning the son of the potential danger of women. And that's how she starts out here. And so in verse 4 it says, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes to say, where is strong drink? Lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the justice due to any that is afflicted." And so, second, Lemuel's mother warns him about the erring effects of what? Alcohol, drinking. And so Solomon has had some things to say about drinking intoxicating wine. Proverbs 23, verse 19 to 21. Drinking wine makes one lethargic. It makes him lazy. It makes him unwilling to work. It makes him in a state of poverty. It can cost him everything that he's got. And so now we find Lemuel's mother advising the king not to drink intoxicating wine. Don't do it. You know, even the Apostle Paul preached on the sin of even partaking of one drink of alcohol for reasons other than medication in 1 Thessalonians 5, 6, and 7. But Paul contrasts sleep and being drunk with watching and being sober. And to sleep and be drunk is to be oblivious to one's surroundings. So even Lemuel's mother says, don't even start the process. Paul even says, don't start the process. So to be on watch is the complete opposite of sleeping. So he says, give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto the bitter in soul. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Well, a king responsible for representing justice could in no way afford the effects of alcohol while ruling the kingdom. He couldn't afford to do that. If he's going to do justice to the people, then don't give them things that's going to cause them to fall. Don't do that. Be a upright, righteous, justice king. Don't give them things that's going to cause them to fall. One of the biggest arguments, especially that of social drinking, is that Jesus turned the water into wine. How ridiculous is that? If that is the case, is there any hope? Why are we even here? Would that not have made Jesus to sin if he had done that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Drugs of all sorts have their proper place of dulling pain, and we're thankful for that. However, healthy people do not have pain needs, but rather responsibilities. Responsibilities. And a king has a responsibility to the people. And not to give them things is going to cause them to perish. And so in verse 8 and 9, she says, open thy mouth for the dumb, in the cause of all such are left desolate. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and minister justice to the poor and needy. Well, a ruler does not succeed in the eyes of a nation is the man who gives place to the wicked. Rather, the exercising justice and displays the spirit of covetous by exacting high taxes on the people. Do the people right, she says. A king will do the people right. And so in verses, when we get into verse 10 through 31, a worthy woman, the virtuous woman. I think the American Standard uses the word worthy, but the King James uses virtuous. It uses worthy, the word worthy,
No,
virtuous.
Jeff,
Yes,
if the Bible said nothing about drinking, those of us who've been reared around people that did drink, that's all you got to see.
Yeah.
See the finished product of the brewer's art, what it does to an individual, and we ought to open our eyes just from that. And how anyone could reason that Jesus turned water into an intoxicating beverage, after seeing what the intoxicating beverage does to mankind, is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to think seriously about the Scripture's teaching. We're always to be sober-minded. God's trying to appeal to my mind. And I certainly don't need to be drinking where I won't reason correctly, you know, and therefore reach wrong conclusions. I mean, David had enough sense to know that if he could get Uriah to drink, he could get him to go down to his house, because it wouldn't reason the way he did when he first got there.
Mm-hmm.
But Uriah, sloppy drunk, reasoned better than David did on that occasion.
That's right. That's
So
right.
we got to realize the dangers of alcohol. And here's what we got to understand. Alcohol and drugs stand together or fall together.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get high on alcohol and it not be sinful, then my next door neighbor can get high on cocaine and it not be sinful.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is both of them are wrong.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, and also the point is not to even give it. You know, she's talking to a king. Do right with the people. You know, don't do that. Right with them.
I've heard some of these passages misused when she says it's not for kings, O Lemuel. Well, it's really not for anybody.
Yeah, right.
But the Bible is recording words from a mother to her son. And so she is dealing with him directly here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for kings, so it can be for everybody else. That's false.
Right.
And the Bible is not a lie because it recorded the lie that Ananias and Sapphira told. It just recorded their words.
Right. Yeah, she's basically saying it's not good for you, it's not good for anybody else. So don't even give it to them. Don't do that. Do right by the people. You think she's giving him some good advice? You think she's giving him some godly advice? Absolutely. So you get into verse 10.
Or to put it another way, Jeff, is this the advice we want to give our children?
Exactly.
Certainly
Right.
we want to pass that on. And when you read in Proverbs and other places, Habakkuk, you see that alcohol is often given to people to pervert judgment. The individual can cause one to do that. Well, she's saying the king don't need to drink lest he mess up on judgment. Well, we'll mess up on judgment as well.
That's right. That's actually right. A worthy woman who can find, for a price is far above rubies. The Hebrew word worthy is found 243 times in the Old Testament and is translated in various forms in various contexts. The King James has virtuous, the idea of being honorable, and that of being one that is upright. And here is a woman who is hard to find and extremely valuable to a man. She's not common among women. And what is it that makes this woman so different and so valuable? What is it? A study of Proverbs 31, it tells us the answer to it. The woman is a rare jewel that she stands out amongst everybody else. So in verse 11 it says, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he shall have no lack of gain. Well, the woman who meets the identity of worthy has the trust of her husband. And the husband would trust the woman's marital fidelity and her genuine love for her children and their spiritual well-being. The worthy woman gives no cause for the man to be concerned with adultery, ruinous behavior in front of the children, or even the home period. He doesn't worry about that. He knows that she is the one that's going to take care of that home. She's going to be, that's her nest egg, and she's going to protect it. She's going to do what's right by those kids. So she doeth him good and not evil all the days of her life. Well, if you note the relationship between the husband and the worthy woman to this point, a very high degree of trust in the relationship. He receives gain, he receives good from her all the days of her life. And the godly woman is depicted as one who builds her house, as opposed to the foolish woman. What does the foolish woman does? She plucks it down with what? Her own hands. But we're going to notice what the virtuous woman or the worthy woman does with her hands. Eddie, go ahead.
Jeff, I was thinking when we was in Proverbs 18:22, he that findeth a wife finds a good thing. Mm-hmm. This is the wife he's talking about.
Yeah, this is it right here. It concludes with that right there. You're absolutely right. You're right. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She, like the merchant ships, she brings her bread from afar. Now, note the word hands. The worthy woman's hands are working hands rather than idle hands. The chapter will repeatedly bear out the importance of this woman's hands. The rest of the way out, it talks about her hands and what she does, and not being idle. The husband trusts in this woman because she brings gain and she brings good. She brings a lot to the table. So in verse 15, she says, she rises also while it is yet night, and gives food to her household, and their task to her maidens. While everyone else is sleeping, you know what she's doing? She's working. And she's working for who? The family. The family. How many times as children, growing up, you got up out of bed to get ready to go to school, and your mom was already in there cooking or making sure that you've got everything you need to get on the bus. And you make sure you had everything that you needed when you got home. Or you made sure you had everything you needed throughout your walks of life. She made sure she got everything, that you had everything that was, any necessity that you needed, she made sure she took care of it, and that you had it. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Here is a woman whose husband trusts her because she has proved herself to be bringing gain and good through hard work and seeking wool and flax. The woman's hands of labor do not stop with wool and flax. Don't stop there. What does she do? Her hands goes out and plants a vineyard. This woman works. She's busy. And not only does she help provide for her family, she also does it for the need of her family, her children. Make sure they're taken care of. And there are people out in the world that think that a woman's place is in the home, and that she don't need to be out working. Well, is that true? Does a woman have a right to work just as much as a man does? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jeff,
Yes, sir.
I was at a lectureship one time, and the system was set up where I could be in the cafeteria and listening to the speech in the auditorium. And I was the next speaker, so I was looking over my lesson and listening to the speaker. Well, he was presenting a lesson, in essence, that said if a woman worked outside the home, she sinned in so doing. Well, I got so hot and bothered, I shut my Bible and went to the auditorium because I was the next speaker, and I definitely wanted to address him. And so when he got through, I said, I want you to know something, brother. I totally disagree with the lesson that you just presented. He said, well, I wasn't saying a woman couldn't work. I was just throwing out some ideas. I said, let me tell you something. The next time you get ready to preach this lesson and you're going to preach it saying that a woman can't work, it's sin, call me. I want to hear it to see what the difference is. There is no difference in what you just said and saying that it's a sin for a woman to leave the home and go work. And I brought up Proverbs 31. Well, I went around and around with him as long as I could. Finally, I had to get ready to speak. Well, the whole time I was speaking, what is the director, the black director in South Carolina? School of Preaching. Anyway, he and the students had that guy cornered outside, and I could see through the double doors. Boy, they were letting him have it, you know. Now, here's the deal. This woman worked outside the home. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't neglect the family. And she definitely did not neglect the family. And anybody that says it's a sin for a woman to work outside the home needs Bible authority for which they cannot find.
Right, that's right. Jim, did you say something to DJ Clark?
No, he's Memphis.
Yeah, that's Memphis.
Oh, I
Other
think
end of the spectrum there, but Eddie, go ahead.
Well, I find it really interesting here because this woman that's under consideration either has charge of her husband's finances or she has her own finances because she's able to go out and buy a vineyard.
Yeah. Yeah, but she also buys a whole lot more.
Land and plant the vineyard, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
This is not a woman that's under the thumb of her husband.
Right. That's right.
Never intended to be under the thumb of her husband.
And you think about it, he appreciates what she does too, because she not only helps provide for the physical needs of the family, she provides for the spiritual needs of the family. It's a team effort. It's what you see here in this chapter. Go ahead, Pat.
Speaking as a woman who has had an outside job almost my entire life, I can tell you that it is not necessarily for pleasure that a woman works outside the home. It's normally to supplement the income. Because, in addition to working outside the home, the woman still carries the full responsibility of the household.
That's right.
And that becomes a pretty heavy load sometimes.
That's right.
So, when a woman works outside the home, it's not necessarily that they desire to be away from home, because their work's still waiting for them when they show up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Melvin Sepp.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and when a woman works outside the home, it's also her responsibility to make sure that she's going to put God first, that she's going to make sure that she's going to be at worship. Because I always, before I took an employment, I always told my employer that I was going to be at worship on Sunday and on Wednesday. I told him I would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I was going to be at worship on Sunday, and that was how I was going to work. And they always worked with me, and that's what I did.
Yeah,
And so it can be done. I don't care where you work at.
that's right. I think half of my classmates in Memphis were converted by their wife, by denominationalism. Their wife was a member of the church, and the husbands were in a denomination and were converted through their wife, you know, and kept working and working at it. Verse 17, she girds her loins with strength and makes strong her arms. Here is a strong-armed woman whose calloused hands are not that of holding a remote control to the television. Her hands are not calloused like that. She builds her strength also by extreme labor. She works. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp goes not out by night. She lays her hands to the staff, and her hands hold the spindle. While everybody else is sleeping, she lays her hands to the staff. You know what she's doing? She's still working. Now that the kids have been fed, they're in the bed, Mom's still got work to do. And so she goes and she finishes it.
This
Yes.
is what it's saying, a man may work from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done.
That's right. That's right. But you kind of know that over and over and over and over, the worthy woman's hands, her hands, are being referred to.
Jeff,
Yes, sir.
Holly Dunn had a song, Daddy's Hands.
Yes.
That was a beautiful song. And I'd never noticed that until you started emphasizing it here. There's a good sermon on mama's hands.
Mama's
and
hands,
a good
yeah.
song.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, work that up, we'll do that in the meeting. These are not hands that are idle. They're not. They're working, always working. Wesley, do you have something?
No, I
Okay.
just think,
All right, we better move on.
and that's a fair thing.
Yeah, we better move on. We better move on. But even Paul speaks of the public perception of this woman in Titus 2, 3, and 4. That the aged woman likewise be reverent in demeanor, not slanderers, nor enslaved to much wine. I mean, he even gives a list of this same type woman. Wow, that was the fastest 40 minutes. We didn't even get finished. I was going to get through it. We have just a few more verses. I'll talk with Eddie. We may want to go ahead and finish this out next Wednesday night, or we may want to go ahead and start 2 Corinthians. We'll see what we've got going on. But a virtuous woman. Go ahead.
One of the things is we were going through this chapter, and I was thinking, because I'm taking this quarter, 1st, 2nd Timothy, and Titus, and I was thinking about the qualifications of an elder. Well, his wife has qualifications too, and she is to be faithful in all things. There's a woman can disqualify a man from the office of a bishop. She can also qualify him.
That's right.
And to be faithful in all things, and this virtuous woman is faithful in all things as you go through this chapter.
That's right. There was another man in the Old Testament that spoke of his wife as being a worthy woman. His name was Boaz. You know the name of the wife? Ruth. He spoke of her as being a worthy woman or a virtuous woman. We'll stop right there. And anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
When you start to think about this whole thing here, the awesome responsibility that this chapter puts on a woman, I'm old enough to remember whenever a woman, if she took care of the house,